Hello and welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room for another episode of Transfer Central. Today, joined by Damon, Louis, and Matty. Matty, I'll start with you. How are you doing today?
Really, really well, to be honest, Charlie. Wembley in 2 days. We've got Champions League semi-final. What a time to be a Red.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to that game, aren't you? Finally got tickets.
Yeah, finally got me ticket. I think City returned loads because Liverpool keep sending more and more emails out to people about ballots. So I think
the game, I saw a screenshot of the game at the Etihad, and they said, tickets still for sale. So,
ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll talk about City another day. But Louis, good game yesterday. Had a good stream after it. Still feeling positive about it?
Yeah, honestly, even though it turned out 3-3, there was no point. I said it on the post-match. There was just no point where I was really concerned. We were outright the better team, I think, and compared to the night that City had, I know they got through anyway, but it puts us in good stead. Everyone's fresh and not too overworked for that semi-final on Saturday.
Yeah, and Damon, we didn't speak to you last night, but thoughts on the result from yesterday?
We got the job done, didn't we? Like Matty said, what a time to be a Red. I mean, semi-final of the FA Cup, semi-final at Champions League, point behind City in the league. I mean, things are starting to align for Liverpool this week, especially. I mean, last night's result for Atletico Madrid and Man City, the tough game that they went through should affect them for Saturday. I do think that.
Yeah, hopefully, we've got De Bruyne injured, maybe Walker injured out for a while, so I'm sure we'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. But evening, everybody, Anthony, do not take the piss out of me trim. I need a haircut. I was saying before it's literally just down. Make it as messy as possible. But Jen, evening. First subject topic we'll go on. I'm going to leave the main ones till later on. Keep people watching. Got to do the old trick. Karmim Adeyemi was being linked with a move for Dortmund for about a year and about over a year now. They've agreed on a transfer fee. The only thing that they can't agree on is the bonuses and the sell-on clauses and all that rubbish. So apparently talks have slowed down. Both teams aren't moving on the position, which has brought Liverpool back in the conversation. You've apparently never stopped talking to Adeyemi and his representatives. Damon, we missed out on Haaland. The next striker's come through. Do you think we should maybe take a shot at him? I mean, the price has already been agreed. It's just sort of agreeing the main other things with Salzburg, isn't it?
I think it's a good price for what we're getting because of the age of him and the potential that he has. But I think there is better options out there right now. If Dortmund go back in for him, I think they will get him in the end. I think it could be like an £80 million striker, couldn't they, by the time he's finished at Dortmund. Do we get him now and loan him back out? That could be an option, I think. Yeah, you know what? I would go for him if another striker wasn't available. I personally wouldn't put him at the top of the list. I'd rather go for someone like Jonathan David or Nunez, depending on how much Nunez is, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, Louis, this price tag of 35 million has been agreed for absolutely ages now, and it seemed like it was only a few steps away. But during the past few months, there's been a bit of talk that the Salzburg higher-ups would like him to go to Leipzig. Surely we've got to be in and around the talks for 35 million. Like, you can't turn your nose up a player of his age and quality for that.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who you'd prefer, who your star man is, Karmim Adeyemi, you look at his statistics certainly this season, and he fits our profile almost perfectly, especially with that 30 to 40 million pound price tag. The sweet spot for attackers for us for the past few seasons, if you look at things like expected goals, touches in the opposition box, shots per 90, he's pretty much on the sweet spot, maybe just below on some of those metrics. But the fact that he's only 20 years old as well, for me, at 30 million, if we are going to sign a striker, I think he's got to be well up there with people that I'd bother to get excited about as an actual viable option.
Matty, we've got a really good relationship with the Red Bull group. You know, we've Takumi Minamino, they basically told us what the release clause was for him. You know, we've bought Keita from them, other players too, who I can't think, but you know, we've been to their training ground. Our whole sort of club is now modelled off them. You know, surely if we go in, we've got a better chance of agreeing a deal with Salzburg and Dortmund, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the signs we've had from the Red Bull model, they haven't been fantastic for us. But I think Adeyemi would be different. Even when you look through his stats, like his possession stats and his pressures, very much mimic what Jota's were at Wolves, which excites me because if you're getting someone like Darwin who's going to come in and maybe have a similar impact to Jota, you're getting someone who's really, really exciting. And if I'm not mistaken, hasn't he got better stats at Salzburg than Haaland did? So he looks an exciting player. I think Dortmund are mad if they're arguing over fees or whatever with them because they're about to lose Haaland. I'd go in for him. He's definitely one for the future. But it's whether I just think, would he come knowing now he's then got to break into that first team where he could maybe go to like Dortmund and start straight away? I mean, if we get him, I think he's a very, very exciting player. And I think he is one for the future. And it shows that Liverpool are then building for the future. And he could be the evolution of the front three. The front three eventually will then probably be the likes of Diaz, Jota, and potentially Adeyemi. And that's exciting. Like it shows that we're evolving and we're preparing for the future. I don't think if he comes in, he's going to be starting week in, week out. But looking at his stats, he really, really excites me. And I'd love him at Liverpool. I really would.
You know, Louis, Matty's just mentioned that there, but bringing this up, do we need another forward? I mean, you know, as Matty said, he's got to break into the team. He's going to be behind a lot of players. He can play on the left and he can play up front, but on the left, he's going to be behind Mane, Diaz, Jota. Up front, straight away, he's probably going to be behind, you know, Jota as well, Firmino. We saw Luis Diaz on the right-hand side last week, even though he can't play on the right-hand side. So, you know, whereas with Dortmund, he's going to come straight in and he's probably going to be their starting striker for them. But with us, it's going to be hard to convince him, you know, on the starting point, isn't it? You know, we're not going to be able to offer him first team football straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose he could always look at the likes of Diaz and Jota who've come in, and Diaz especially has made such a massive impact. I think more this season than most of us would have thought. I think a lot of us thought maybe he'll play a bit part role and then come into his own next year, but he's instantly sort of knocked on the door of that front three. So maybe that would give him a bit of hope. The Klopp factor as well is massive in signing players. Like, we can't underestimate that. But we've also got to remember we've got Carvalho coming, and you know, we weren't 100% sure talking about it on the watch along yesterday exactly where Carvalho would fit in, especially in that midfield. Like, which role suits him the most? Is it the right-sided 8? But therefore we've got quite a few players who play that role as well anyway. So maybe he is a backup for one of those front three positions as well. So you're right, it's absolutely stacked. But as we've spoken about many times this season, there's one or two members of that front three who you feel maybe are on their way out. Jen just asking for Salah news. Well, you know, maybe we'll find something out in the next 2-3 months, and maybe that might open the door to another signing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he falls in the range of a striker that we, you know, Damon, that we typically sign. You know, as Matty said, the 35 to 40 million. He's 20 years old, 21, something like that.
21,
yeah, 21 years old. You know, I'm going to say this loosely, but he's German. You know, probably sort of looks up to Klopp in a certain way. You know, it's not out the realms of possibility that Liverpool do a little backdoor deal here, is it?
It does fit the bill, doesn't it? It does fit everything we look for in a forward and in a striker. He could play all up the front three, so it does fit Jurgen Klopp and does fit the Liverpool mould as it is now. Like I said earlier, I think a loan back would be possibly the best move, because like Firmino, Salah, Mane, they are getting on a little bit. They're going to be needed to be replaced at some point. So if we get Adeyemi now at 35 million, loan back is probably the best thing we can do and get him the game time that he needs. Yes, Darwin can offer him first team now, but if he wants a cracking future, then come to this club. this club's got the best development in the world at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's we saw it with Kostas Tsimikas. He's not going to be getting first team football, but he's at the end of the day, when we look back at the history books, he's going to be in the squad who won all them trophies. So, it's I think at Liverpool as well. We're going to be challenging for every single competition now for the foreseeable future. That's 60, 70 games a season. If we do get into the Club World Cup, you're pushing 80 games a season. So we realistically need two squads throughout the whole season. We saw that this year, and bringing Adeyemi in with the likes of Takumi Minamino and Divock Origi both look set to leave. I can see why we're still in talks with them. Don't think it's going to happen, if I'm being honest, but you never know. We move. But Jen, thank you so much for the super sticker. Again, we all appreciate it on this channel, and it goes straight back into everything that we do. If you are new as well, please do leave a like on the video. Helps us out a bunch, and subscribe if you're not already for daily content on the channel. Another rumour-ish that we've been linked with is Robert Lewandowski. His contract ends at the end of 2023. Same as Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino. According to Spanish and Polish sources, he agreed a 3-year deal with Barcelona. However, Liverpool, Manchester City, and PSG were all interested in him. Lewis, we've heard from Spanish media the past week or so, or German media, that nothing's really been agreed, but some sources are contradicting themselves. It's a bit weird to see Liverpool's name in and around this story, isn't it, considering his age?
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't fit any transfer that we've made in the last 3 to 4 years, to my recollection. Like the last older player that we signed was James Milner, but even then he wasn't in his 30s at the time that we signed him, I don't think. So no, it's very bizarre. I don't know if that's a bit of, if a deal hasn't been fully agreed yet, then maybe that's a little bit of agent cheekiness, but I'd be very surprised if there's anything real to that, if I'm being honest.
I mean, Matty, Klopp made him the player that he is. He's Robert Lewandowski himself has credited Klopp with being, the reason the player. That's the reason the player he is today. It's not. His wages are going to be astronomical. He's 33-ish. Someone correct me, maybe a bit younger, but
33, 34 in August.
Yeah, 33. As Louis said, it seems a bit of a nothing story, but could you see a link up one day? We saw it with Thiago. Thiago was 29 when he come. We broke our model for him. Why can't we do it for Lewandowski? He's still producing at the top level of world football, even at 33.
I think that's probably why he has been linked, because of the Klopp impact with him. He's a phenomenal footballer. He averages near enough a goal a game at Bayern Munich in his career there. I've just had a quick look there. He's on about 19 million a year, pounds, 23 million euros at Bayern. So that's astronomical wages. I'd love him, but I just think the money to do with it and the age of him, because FSG love a player who has got that resale value should they want to sell him. So I don't think he'd come in. I mean, I'd love him, and if he goes to Barca, I think that makes Barca dangerous. But if we could get him on like the cheap, and he took a pay cut, so to speak, and came to Liverpool with the ambition of just winning trophies, and it wasn't more about money, I think it'd be a stroke of genius, really. Like, he'd come in and I think he'd dominate in the Premier League, but we can all hope. I just don't think it's possible. With him being 34 in August, we're probably talking he's probably only got 1 or 2 more years in until he probably starts to decline. I mean, I know Ronaldo's still playing now, but he's not the Ronaldo he once was. So after 2 seasons, Lewandowski's 36 then, and it's just there's no resale value in it, really. And so I don't think FSG would target that. I mean, as a fan, I'd absolutely love to see him in a red shirt, but I just don't think that one will happen, unfortunately, as sad as it is.
Yeah, I mean, Damon, Matty's just said about the resale value, but bringing it back to Thiago, we brought Thiago in. We're probably not gonna sell him, for anything. We bought him for 20 million. I with a year left on his contract and his age, they're probably going to be maybe, if saying it that, they're probably going to still want a decent fee for him if we get him this summer. But, you know, if he comes to Liverpool for 2-3 years, he's still at the top of his game. You know, he's banging in goals. You know, let's say we win multiple trophies, then you're not really looking at resale value, are you? You're looking, Robert Lewandowski's come to Liverpool and he's helped us win 5 trophies in 2 years. So as a financial point, that's surely got to be worth more than, you know, resale.
I think it's a big gamble, isn't it? If we do get him, are we going to guarantee those 3 years of top level? I mean, Ronaldo's the only one that has really hit it at 34, 35. Ibrahimovic did a little bit. But it is a big gamble. If we take that chance and he sort of drops off 34, 35, then it's a waste of money in the end of the day with the wages that we're paying for him. The only thing I can think of if we do get him is if it's a stopgap and we're hoping to bring in a youngster that we've got an eye on possibly. I can't see it happening if I'm honest. The only way I can see it happening is if we lose Salah and we need that sort of goal scorer to replace the goals.
But that's a good point, Matty. You know, if we do lose Salah, let's say next year, and we need somebody for a year or two, you know, a similar wages, why not go and get Lewandowski? He's familiar with Klopp's system. He's familiar with the style of play. You know, he's still banging goals in at this age. So as Damon said there, you know, for a year or two, if we were to lose Salah, you're not going to get a more prolific goal scorer than Robert Lewandowski, are you?
Yeah, but I feel like there's younger options who could probably do it for longer. I mean, if you're losing Salah, I think if Salah doesn't sign a contract, he'd probably go this summer just so we can get money on him. Otherwise, he'd go for free. And then I still think even with the year on his contract, you get upwards of 100 million from Mo Salah. He is one of, if not the best player in the world. It's not worth thinking about losing him, to be honest. But I think if you lost him, with the fact we're prepared to pay him 300 grand, we could ultimately go and spend up to that 150 million pound on a player with 300 grand's worth of wages. And I think that's when you could be talking about younger, better players. I mean, Lewandowski's phenomenal, but like Damon said, you're getting him for a year, 2 years, and then you're then looking for somebody else, and you've ploughed all them wages into Lewandowski. You're not going to be able to get a transfer fee for him, etc., etc. So I think if Salah was to go, we'd probably go and get somebody else. Liverpool don't buy superstars, we make them, and that's always been the way.
Yeah, you know, well, I think we can all agree that this probably definitely isn't going to happen. Seems like a very Barcelona signing, spending mega wages on somebody for a few years for them to probably not be as good as hoped. But speaking of somebody who is young, who impressed us recently at Anfield, Darwin Nunez. You know, a lot of people raving about him over the past 24 hours. I saw a lot of tweets saying, you know, that he's not the generational talent that everyone wants him to be, but that's fine. You know, he's a good striker. He's 22 years old. I mean, 60 million, Louis, is what's being touted for him. At the moment, the most solid reports are Newcastle, Manchester United, and Arsenal are being linked with him. We've saw it before when a player's performed at Liverpool in front of Jurgen Klopp and the players that we will make a move for them. Do you think this could be another instance of that?
Yeah, I mean we've got a history of doing that kind of thing now. I mean, I think with Nunez, especially that we've talked about Adeyemi and the price difference between them. His goal ratio this season is phenomenal, but it's hard to say that that's consistently what it'll be like. I don't think he played anywhere near as much last season, didn't do quite as well last year. So maybe this is a bit of a flash in the pan. You don't know. 37 appearances, 32 goals, 3 assists. In the Champions League, goals against Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Ajax and Liverpool. So it's not to be sniffed at, but considering it's an extra 30 million, we don't really spend that type of money on attackers anymore. And you see the likes of Adeyemi, younger, relatively similar stats. As you said, he's not the generational talent that we think he is, and I don't think we should break our model for someone who's not a generational talent.
After the first leg, Damon, there were reports from Record Portugal who were one of the first to jump on the Luis Diaz rumours. So, not to be sniffed at as a source, they said that Liverpool led the charge. The Liverpool players were very impressed with him. And after it, there's rumours of us signing him. Basically, the players are impressed. They wouldn't mind him at the club. His goals yesterday were unbelievable. His onside and offside goals. He's clearly got that finishing capability. He'd make a great addition to the side. And, we've seen them recent success with Luis Diaz from the Portuguese league. So, it might be a risk worth taking, even if it is, breaking our mold on the price.
So the thing that impressed me the most with is wasn't just his finishing; it was his ability on the ball and around the box, on the wings as well. When he cut to the wings and he got some decent crosses in. For a striker to cross like that, he had some decent crosses in. There was just no one in the box to finish him off. Which, if he was on the end of his own crosses, and then he could have scored a few more last night. And the finishes that he did have, though, were just incredible. That chip over Alisson, that was just incredible. I'm glad it didn't get given, but what a finish that was. And the thing about generational talent, there's not many generational talents in the world anyway. I mean, how many? You could probably count them on two hands, generational talent. So I won't even worry about, he's not a generational talent, so let's not go by him. You're not going to get generational talents every single time. Luis Diaz is not a generational talent, but that's been a successful signing so far. So I won't even worry about the generational talent thing.
So, Damon, you said Adeyemi, if there was another striker available, you wouldn't go for him. Let's say we could get Adeyemi for 35, or you could get Nunez for 65. Who are you going for?
I'd get Nunez, if I'm honest. Yeah, if money isn't a problem with the club, which it normally is, I know that, but I'd get Nunez just because I've seen more of him. Adeyemi is, and I trust Salzburg. I trust Salzburg signing. Trust me. I mean, Mane, Keita, some brilliant talent has come from that club. But from what I've seen in Nunez last 2 games, I mean, he just offers so much, and I think it'd suit the Premier League a bit more as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank
you. Matty, Michael here said Nunez reminds me of Andy Carroll. I think that's reaching. A bit. He is a bit taller. He's 6'2", but he was going up against Konate, who's no slouch. He wasn't getting past Konate, but it's the confidence that he portrayed in that game. It's very impressive considering the fact he's only 22, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, there's not often a player comes to Anfield and makes me and many other fans be like, wow, edge of the seat. Nunez gave me that yesterday, and in the first leg, he gave me that as well. Liverpool fans always cry out for a plan B, always say we need a plan B. Well, Nunez has that height to whip the balls in and be on the end of them. He's brilliant with his feet. I seen Anthony put a comment to score a 1-on-1 against Alisson shouldn't be sniffed at. He's absolutely unbelievable. Now, with Adeyemi, yeah, he is doing really, really well at Salzburg. Let's not forget it's in the Australian League, and Bayern Munich let Adeyemi go. So why did Bayern Munich not see something in him there? Now, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying we shouldn't sign Adeyemi, but I just think Nunez offers that little bit more. Having that little bit more height gives you that plan B. His off-the-ball movement is fantastic, unbelievable, and how good he actually is. He's physical, and he's so exciting. I honestly haven't been that excited to watch someone at Anfield of an opposition player for a long, long time. And the general census walking out that ground yesterday from most fans was, well, take that Nunez, he's some player. And he just looks unbelievable. And the last Uruguayan we signed from, who was relatively unknown, didn't do too bad for us, did he? So,
yeah, we know how mental Uruguayans are too, so...
Matty, I won't worry about Bayern Munich letting him go, though, if that is the case, because Chelsea have let KDB go and Salah back. So
yeah,
I trust Liverpool scouts. I do trust Liverpool scouts. If they go for Nunez or Adeyemi, I'll trust them more than anyone, really.
There's just something about him, the aura about him as well. It's just like, let's not forget.
He's a bit cocky, isn't he? He's a bit cocky.
Yeah,
it's a good cockiness, though.
To score goals, to score goals against some of the sides he has in the Champions League this year, like Benfica were in a Champions League quarter final, and a large part of that was down to Darwin Nunez. These are a team who completely fell off in Portugal. Porto have completely took a step above them. That's why they hate them so much, and he's leading the charge with them. He's absolutely fantastic, and the fact they're saying 65 million for him is probably about right, and he is only 22. And what excites me is his height. It's just his height. And Liverpool, I know usually tall strikers don't work at Liverpool, but then in the past, we haven't had Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold whipping the balls in for them either. So I think for me, Nunez is a, if we're going in for any attacker, I think he's definitely a must buy. And I've just seen a comment there to replace Origi. That's pretty much what he would do. He's not going to come in and start week in, week out, and having someone like that on your bench, it's exciting. I'd do anything to have him at Liverpool. I really would.
Yeah, I mean, something that DJ's brought up here, he has recently just changed agent to Jorge Mendes, who's Fabinho, Diogo Jota's, and Joe Gomez's agent, I believe.
Well.
He's got a fair few Liverpool players under him, definitely at least 3, maybe more. Louis, we look at the other clubs who are interested in him, especially from the Premier League. It looks like he's Premier League bound from most reports. Should we just get him just to stop, the likes of Manchester United or Arsenal even signing him? And, he's 22. When the likes of Firmino, Mane, Salah all leave, he'll be ready to be, the world beater that the world touts him to be.
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, it looks like at the moment it's probably Man United who are favourite, or at least they believe themselves to be favourite. But there's no reason to rule ourselves out.
For the second.
Yeah, there's no reason to rule ourselves out of this one because, as we've said, we have history in coming up last minute and negotiating something better with these teams. And yeah, I didn't know that about the agent. That's very interesting, actually. So. Maybe, we could consider ourselves dark horses to try and sneak in and get this one over the line. Who knows?
Yeah, Sutton just bringing this up. His release clause, I believe, is 122 million euros, with them wanting 70 million euros to be sold next summer. So, which is around 65-ish million pounds. But, Matty, going on to the whole other Premier League clubs, they can offer them more game time. It's a simple fact. We've got too much attacking talent to, risk dropping them, risk, not starting them, basically. Whereas the likes of Manchester United, Arsenal can't do that, and Newcastle as well, might be a dark horse. They're going to be able to guarantee him game time, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think with game time, we've seen with Jota, he was playing quite regularly at Wolves. We've seen Diaz plays week in, week out for Porto. They're coming to Liverpool for the project and for the fact to work under Jurgen Klopp. What he's done to the whole Liverpool team, he's improved every single player, not just by a little bit. He's made them into absolute superstars. Like you look at Andy Robertson, he wasn't that good at Hull. as an example, you look at any player, you can pick any player out of our team and say how much Klopp's improved. And I think that's what, if he was to go to another club, I'd say it's probably more for money. Where if he was to come to Liverpool, it's probably more the fact this project excites him. He wants to win silverware, and then that drive is what you want in a club. I don't think he'd go to United myself, because why would you go to a club? Why would you go from playing in Champions League football to go into a club that's probably going to be playing in the Europa League? And that's a club in disarray at the moment. I think if Liverpool are after any player, I think we'd get whoever we want, to be honest with you. I think we're that powerful now. Us and City are the 2 biggest clubs at this present moment, the 2 best projects, 2 best managers. So I think we can get anyone. And if he was to go to Newcastle, then it's for money. Yet he probably will win silverware in the next few years. But why would anyone turn down the project? And the fact of working with Jurgen Klopp. I mean, at the end of this season, we could be coming off the back of winning absolutely everything. Anyone would want to be a part of that. And he probably looks at the likes of Diaz and Jota and thinks, well, that front 3 that won the Premier League and Champions League, probably everyone looked at that and thought I couldn't break into it. And Jota's come in and done it, and Diaz has come in and done it. So you can break into the front 3 if you're a talent. And I think Nunez has got that. And I think you'd probably look at it and be like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Because football is, if you're a professional football playing in the Champions League, you're going to have unbelievable self-belief. And if you go to a club like Newcastle, I do think it is more for money. And even with United, I mean, that's just a club in absolute disarray. You don't even know who's going to be there next year in terms of players or anything, or managers. It's just, I just think that the pull of Jurgen Klopp is just, it's unbelievable. And I think we can literally get whoever we want.
Yeah, we've got a lover of your accent there from Manuel Frederico.
Heightened accents.
Hey, I've got one too, but it's been lost on me throughout my travels. But yeah, if you are new as well, guys, make sure you do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn the bell notification on. We have daily content for you. So yeah, it's worth a subscribe. I think we might be at 3.5k, so appreciate all the love from everybody. One thing I do want to ask, Damon, I know you've already answered this, but Louis, I'll bring that question back onto you about Adeyemi for 35 million or Nunez for 65 million, and you as well, Matty. But Louis, who you choosing out of them?
I think you've both done a good job of convincing me. I think I do look at it from more a case of who we'd be more likely to sign, and just the price. The price just fits us more with Adeyemi, but yeah, I think so many people are excited about what Nunez has to offer more, and the fact that Klopp spoke about him in his interview as well. Like, I don't know if it was a direct question about him, but he doesn't speak about many opposition players. The only one that we haven't signed I can think of is Martinelli, who he speaks about every time we play Arsenal. So, maybe it was another Minamino kind of situation and a Diaz situation, a bit of a an interview, a bit of a trial, and maybe he's been convinced, and we might have something exciting in the summer.
Matty, I think I know what you're going to choose, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yeah, Nunez all day. I think anyone who can come and put some of them finishes in that he did past Alisson Becker shouldn't be sniffed at. And he is some player. I'd sign him tomorrow if I could. I really would. I think he'd come in and he'd make a difference. He's that plan B we've all been crying out for with his height. We should be getting him.
Yeah. Well, Nunez, everyone seems to love him. Hopefully he doesn't end up at Arsenal or Manchester United and ruin his career forever. But going on to the final topic of today, a right-sided midfielder who seems to have every other position in the squad sorted. We've even got backups for them positions. The only position we seem to be struggling at the moment is that right-sided midfield role. We've been linked with a lot of players since the summer transfer window and before that. To name the main ones we're going to discuss, if anyone as well from the comments or you guys have any other names, bring them up and we'll just talk about them. But I've gone with Jude Bellingham, Aurelien Tchouameni, and Gavi. I think they're the three that we've sort of been linked with. Tchouameni at the moment has been tipped to join Real Madrid as of today. I'm not sure how reliable the sources are, and Matty, and we know your love for Jude Bellingham. But Damon, I'll start with you. Who should come into Liverpool and take over this right-sided midfield role for the next 10 years?
You know what? I want actually two midfielders, just because of the age of like Thiago and Henderson, and Milner's going to be going soon anyway. So yeah, I'd take two midfielders this season. However, I like Tchouameni. I really like Tchouameni, but Bellingham is my number one choice. But it's just the wage, isn't it? The wage and the transfer fee for Bellingham is ridiculous. And will Dortmund sell both their superstars in one transfer window? I can't see it. The other name I'd throw out there is Declan Rice, if he was available and if the price was right. Again, another big transfer fee. I think it was reported that he was number one target for Jurgen Klopp. It used to be Bellingham, but then it changed to Declan Rice like a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. But I think Declan Rice would be an unbelievable number 8. I do. I know he plays at 6 now and Fabinho's there, but Declan Rice at number 8 would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Louis, there's a lot of names to choose from. The main one being Bellingham, which seems like we've been linked with him for absolutely ever. Who's your ideal 8? We can talk about Harvey Elliott, but he's 18. Curtis Jones isn't really living up to what we were hoping. Matty, I won't slander him, but we all have to admit, he's been given a chance multiple times this season. And he's
on the right side, though, Charlie, he should be playing on the left side. When he plays on the left side, he always puts in 8 out of 10s, always on the left side.
Well, we'll stick on the right-hand side, so I won't criticise him too much. But, Naby Keita as well, but again, mainly left. So, it's there's a lot of options, isn't there, Louis, who we could choose from? Some people are mentioning Ruben Neves, Basuma, Dominic Schlabalaj. I don't know how you say his name, but that fella. But yeah, who are you going with?
I mean, I'd preferably like someone who could do at least 2 of the midfield roles in one. I think that's important, having diverse players. Like our front 3, most of them can play in any of those front 3 positions. Carvalho coming in can play in the midfield and across most of the front 3 as well. So I wouldn't go for Bellingham because of the fee involved. I just don't think we would ever entertain that. I also don't think that it would be worth him coming in and potentially playing on the left side as well. I don't think that suits him at all, and we'd be restricting him. So he would have to be primarily used on the right. And as I said, I prefer it if people could play a multitude of positions. So I think out of the 3 you listed initially, I'd have to go for Gavi. I think he's got maybe the most, bar Bellingham, maybe the most raw talent that could be developed. And I think he's got enough skill sets that he could fill in multiple positions as well.
Looking at the prices for each of these, Matty, Gavi could be free, which is a massive selling point. We reportedly offer him I've already offered him a contract of $6 million a year. Tchouameni's looking at around 40 to 50 million, I think pushing 50 million pounds, and we know Bellingham's going to cost upwards of 80 million pounds. You're looking at Bellingham, and it's double for what we can get for a lot of other players, isn't it? But do you think the quality, he's got more quality than the other players?
Yeah, I do. I think Gavi and Bellingham's doable if you get Gavi on a free, especially. But I don't think Bellingham's doable this season. I think Jude Bellingham, for me, is probably more of a long-term Henderson replacement, and I think Henderson's probably got another season in him, playing most games. I think he probably will maybe drop into the Milner role a little bit next year. But Liverpool will wait. If they want Bellingham, they'll wait. They waited for Van Dijk. They waited for Alisson. They'll wait for players if they have to. I think Jude Bellingham, his family are Reds. He's a Liverpool fan. So that's what sways me more to him, because I like players on that pitch who knows what it means for the club. You like your Harvey Elliott, your Trent, your Curtis Joneses, because it's like having a fan on the pitch. And I think that's what Bellingham is. And he idolised Gerrard. If he comes to Liverpool for the long term, he's probably going to play under Gerrard. I just think Bellingham, like you've always said, and I've always said as well, I think Bellingham will play for Liverpool one day, and I think if you can get him for 80 million from Dortmund next year, that's your opportunity. Because if he goes to any other club, as he gets older, gets better, you're going to be talking stupid money for him, like you are with Mbappe, your 100 millions and stuff like that for Bellingham. He's that good. So I would be waiting to get him. I really would. I'd take not signing the midfielder this summer if it means getting Bellingham next year, 100%. But if Gavi's a free, I think you can do the 2 of them. Gavi excites me. He really does excite me. But there's out of Barca, I'd rather Pedri, but getting Gavi's just as good. But I would wait for Bellingham myself. I think Tchouameni's probably going to go to Real Madrid. But Bellingham is he just oozes class, and I think the pull of, like, we have got quite a big English core in the club at the minute as well. You've got Trent there, and again, just if he's idolised Gerrard, he's going to be looking to come to Liverpool and beating his head. How many times do you think on the playground he screamed Gerrard when he pinged the ball? How many times do you think he still does it? Because I know everyone else does. So I think Bellingham is probably the worst kept secret in football. I think he will 100% play for Liverpool. Not this year, but next year, 100%.
He's already got a chance for him as well. Probably one of the only players who doesn't play for Liverpool has got a ready-made chant for when they do join. But, looking at other players, Damon, we've mentioned 3 of the main ones, and you obviously mentioned Declan Rice, but we have been linked with other ones. You know, a throwback Florian Newhouse. I've just had someone else in me mind, Basuma, who I don't think we'll touch because of the whole essay case at the moment. I don't know. I don't know.
Quick
If I'm allowed
Google
to say
search for
that.
anyone listening.
Yeah. I don't know. If I'm allowed to say that. But you know, there's Ruben Neves as well is another good one who somebody mentioned. So there's a lot of decent talent out there. You know, apart from them three and Declan Rice, who would you look at? You know, for Liverpool.
Like Matty said, I'd look at Pedri. I think Pedri is an absolute baller, but I could see him being built around at Barcelona now with Xavi. I do. I think he'd be an absolute baller under Xavi. I mean, the perfect guy to be managed under, to be honest. Yeah, I can't really see past those three. I do like Declan Rice. I'm a big fan of Declan Rice, but he's a Chelsea fan in this. So I'd go with Bellingham, like Matty said. I can't see anyone else. Neuhaus is okay, but he's not the level that we need now. Neuhaus would have been a good one 10 years ago when we was fighting for fourth. But no, I think Bellingham is the perfect solution.
Louis, you know, say it was a midfielder is what we need, ideally, too. You know, James Milner looks to be on the way out, hopefully. As much as I love James Milner, I think his time with Liverpool is coming to an end. And, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about Ox's role in the squad. He seems to be on the brink of leaving as well. There's a lot of talk about Curtis Jones also going out on a loan next season. We could see Harvey Elliott as well go out on a loan. You know, what in, you know, departures for the club in midfield, who do you think is going to be going, you know, in that midfield role to bring in another midfielder, basically?
Yeah, because I think coming into this season, it wasn't always. We seem to have quantity over quality in the midfield. Obviously, Thiago, Keita, Fabinho, Henderson are all fantastic options, but we've got a lot of midfielders. And I think, interestingly, before January, you know, if we weren't sure how to get them into the midfield and if we needed to give them a run out, we could just rest one of the front three and shove Jones, Elliott, Oxlade-Chamberlain into one of those front three roles. But with Jota playing so well, with Diaz coming in and doing so well, there's just no room up there. If you're resting Salah, you're bringing in Diaz or Jota. If you're resting Mane, you're bringing in Firmino or Diaz. So now there really are only three spots that those midfielders can fight for. So there should be some quite big changes, as you said. I think Milner, by all intents and purposes, it just looks like he's going to get a new deal. I don't know why we would do that. I used to think that was okay, but with where we need to go, who we need to bring in, I don't think we should give him a new contract. I don't know if that's controversial or not. Oxlade-Chamberlain, for me, I don't like to have agendas against players, but I really just think his time's finished. You know, the last time he played, he came off and was in a bit of a strop about it. You know, he has been given chances and he just hasn't shown any consistency. So those two definitely, I think, should be out the door. And then Henderson moving into a bit more of a background role. So, and then, yeah, I expect Elliott to stick around next season. Curtis Jones, I'm not too sure because, yeah, it was quite favoursome to put him on the left wing. But as I said, there's just no room anymore. So unless Klopp thinks that next season he will have developed and will be a viable option to use consistently, then maybe a loan deal might be good for him as well.
If you really think about it, there's going to be a lot of space to fill there, isn't there? Really, Thiago is not getting any younger. Henderson's going to get, like Louis said, he's going to go into a back step role. Milner's going, Ox is going. Curtis Jones just isn't that player that we wanted him to be. There's only really Harvey Elliott and Fabinho left. Keita's injury prone.
I think we're ruling out Curtis Jones a bit too much. I didn't realise it was everyone had sort of crossed him out.
I'll get on to that.
He's a brilliant squad player.
I mean, I think Kris was the one who alluded to it on the podcast and on a stream. You know, I think it was after his Watford performance where, you know, he dropped a stinker, Matty. We all have to.
Is it the same Kris who's being calling for Ox to get a bloody lifetime contract? Though,
I think Kris as well has sort of admitted. We haven't seen Kris in a while, but he's admitted that Ox needs to go. I'll speak on that for him. But you know, look, we've got Naby Keita, we've got Harvey Elliott, we've got Thiago, we've got Fabinho. Jordan Henderson's still going to be around. Fabio Carvalho is going to come in and can play in, an 8. So there's 6 midfielders for next season alone, without even taking into account a potential Milner extension and Curtis Jones too, because I honestly believe, Matty, that he's going to go out on loan next season. I just don't see how he gets into this squad with the likes of Ox being sold, because Ox has to go next season as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I want Ox gone. I mean, he was the injury ruined the Ox, and it's sad. I loved Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain before the injury. He was a fantastic player, but I think James Milner starting ahead of him last night speaks about Ox's place in this squad now. A few points. James Milner, I'd give him a new contract, because I always say it. You go and ask Steven Gerrard what influence Gary Mack had on him when he was coming through. And there's a reason Gary Mack's part of his coaching setup at Aston Villa and was at Rangers. I think Milner, in terms of what he offers for the dressing room, for the young players coming through, I think we will give him a new deal on that basis, and he'll probably maybe be doing some coaching badges while doing it. If he doesn't sign with us, probably go to Leeds and do a year there to finish his career. But James Milner, for me, is someone you should be holding on to, definitely to keep with the progression to coaching, because he is the epitome of what Premier League footballer should be. How he handles himself, how he is. Got all the time in the world for James Milner. Not good enough to play week in, week out, but I think he's good to keep around.
For 140 grand a week, though, Matty?
No. He needs a new deal on about probably 50, 60.
Is he going to sign that, though? That's the thing, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, if he's only getting offered the same money, say, at Liverpool and the same money at Leeds, then I'd say maybe he goes to Leeds to finish his career, because he's a Yorkshire lad, he's Leeds through and through. But I think I would keep him, but not on it. Obviously, he's not going to get another 140 grand deal. His contract's up. But if we reduce his wages and he signs it, James Milner is massive in that dressing room. Whether fans want to accept it or not, you own that Steven Gerrard, the influence Gary Mack had on him. As for Curtis Jones, a lot of fans seem to be writing him off, but Jurgen Klopp still backs him. Curtis Jones, a few weeks ago, started for Liverpool, and Harvey Elliott was playing with the kids. Now, I am adamant something's gone on with Harvey Elliott, because, yeah, he's come back from a bad injury, but he's played and then he's just went distant. He can't. I think
it's his social media. I think it's outside stuff.
And Jurgen Klopp doesn't like that. But I'm not saying we'd get rid of Elliott, but I feel as though Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion, rates Curtis Jones higher than Harvey Elliott, because the game time shows it.
Nah, so this is my honest. I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, just to myself, like a little weirdo. But I, honest to God, think that Harvey Elliott's injury has played a massive part in this. I do think he's fit, but I think he's come back, and Klopp's being like, okay, I've got a full squad. We're in every single competition. Every game is a final. Every game is 100%. Harvey Elliott being out for 6 months. He's 18. He's got stuff going around him constantly. And he's like, I'm not going to throw him into this team. I don't need to do that. There's no point in me doing it and putting more pressure on him, potentially bringing back his injury. I think if there was something going on, I don't think we see him on the bench every week. Apart from that Watford game, because the Premier League still got reduced bench sizes. I don't think anything's going wrong. I think next season Harvey Elliott is going to be our 4th choice midfielder, third or 4th, like he was at the beginning of the season.
But he's not at the minute. And
I think at the minute it's due to him coming back from his injury.
Before his injury, he actually started, didn't he?
I don't think Klopp wants to throw him in when he doesn't need to. He doesn't have to at the end of the day,
My biggest frustration is a lot of people don't say, like, Curtis Jones this, Curtis Jones that. The kid's 21. He's still a kid. He shouldn't be playing week in, week out. He's still a kid. And to be fair to him, when he plays on the left, he's fantastic for us. And don't forget, he's trying to break into a side with Thiago Alcantara in the midfield, arguably one of the best passes of the football we've ever seen. Jordan Henderson, who's the captain, so he's not going to be replaced. And Fabinho, who's probably one of the best midfielders in world football. So for me, Curtis Jones is doing what a 21-year-old should be doing, getting minutes here and there.
I think if you compare Curtis Jones to 21-year-olds around the world, though, I think is miles off the pace. I mean, if you're talking about like our links to Bellingham and Tchouaméni and things like that, they're way better than him. If you're gonna,
we know he's not that, don't we? We don't think.
Oh yeah, he's not that. Yeah, but is the standard of a bench player. It's going to be a brilliant squad player. He's so important.
And everyone develops at different paces as well. You never know. Curtis might be a 30-year-old mega star. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think one thing to take into account for Curtis Jones, and I feel like I've noticed this a lot, is because he's been around for so long. 5 years he's pretty much been in and around the first team squad. I do think people have a bit of a conception that he's like 23, 24,
like Trent,
when he's not. Like he's still 21, but I do still think he alone would massively benefit him next season. Look at Conor Gallagher. He's gone to Crystal Palace. He's balled up, and he's probably going to be thrown straight into the first team Chelsea next season if someone doesn't come in and sign him. Curtis Jones has played in a 6 for us. He's been unbelievable. He was unreal when he played in a 6. He plays as an 8 and he can play as a 10. A team like Crystal Palace and Patrick Vieira would do wonders with Curtis Jones. He'd be playing week in, week out in different positions. And I think at the moment, with the personnel that Liverpool have in their squad, a loan move is just the best option for him because he's not getting the football that he needs at the end of the day.
I'd agree. I think a loan. I wouldn't sell him. I'd never say that myself, but I wouldn't sell him. But I agree. I think because Gallagher he's not going to stay at Palace. Let's be serious. So I think they're then looking for someone like that. And Curtis Jones has got a similar play style to Conor Gallagher, so he could go to Palace and move mad there. To be fair,
do you reckon Gerrard would go for him?
Yeah, I think he maybe could go to Villa. Steven Gerrard absolutely adored him, went on record and spoke so highly of him in the academy. So I think Gerrard maybe going from, I think a loan move would massively help him. And probably a controversial opinion, but I think a loan move would do Harvey Elliott the world of good as well. I think a Premier League loan move where he can maybe even go back to Fulham for a year in the Premier League. I think Elliott needs another loan move in the Prem where he's just away from the spotlight, so to speak. Like Fulham's not in a bigger spotlight to say Liverpool. I think he needs to grow up a little bit. And obviously he still is only 18, 19, so he has got that time to grow, and that's what I think will help Harvey Elliott if he goes to a Premier League team, even similar to maybe like a Palace, and plays week in, week out, is allowed to grow and develop his talents. I think that would help Elliott as well, to be fair. And let's be real, he's not going to start week in, week out for Liverpool, so I'd rather going to see Elliott play week in, week out in another club and just grow up, go away from the spotlight, get away from everything. And going down to London, he's with his family and that again, because with Elliott, that's the only thing that worries me. He's fantastic, he's unbelievable, but I'm not going to say he's like Mario Balotelli, but in terms of Balotelli, look how good he was, but how he was outside of football ruined him, and that's my only worry with Harvey Elliott, because he's an absolute divvy outside of footy. There's no shying away from it. He is, and that's where he needs to grow up. So I think a loan move to a Premier League club would benefit him as well, to be fair. But I think they'd both benefit from loan moves. But what a position we're in. We're talking about 2 fantastic young talents, and we're talking about even like loaning them out. But I personally would loan Harvey Elliott out again, because the last loan move was successful for him. Now let him go and loan and play week in, week out in the Premier League and just grow up a little bit, to be fair.
Speaking of Gerrard midfielders, what about Ramsey or McGinn? Do you think we should be looking at those two?
Jacob Ramsey I'd take tomorrow, but I don't think Steven Gerrard would let him go. I think you'd only see Jacob Ramsey maybe if Steven Gerrard came to come to Liverpool. But he's some player.
I think if we get Jacob Ramsey, we don't get Bellingham, though. But that's just mine. Sorry, go on, Louis.
On Harvey Elliott, I agree with what you said, Matty. It does worry me as well. I think there is something wrong with that boy a little bit. He's got the potential to be a bit of a wrong, and I don't want to say too much, but he's got that vibe about him. But I don't think alone. I feel like maybe the Phil Foden treatment. If we want him to mature, I don't think there's a better manager for him to be around day in, day out than Jurgen Klopp. I think you almost risk the opposite if you send him to a club in the lower echelons of the Prem, or maybe the higher echelons of the Championship, and you kind of expect him to maybe be a bigger part of that, maybe a bigger fish in a slightly smaller pond. Maybe, he doesn't learn quite as much. Maybe he needs a bit of humbling. Maybe he needs to be that 4th, 5th choice midfielder for a season, much like the back end of this year, and just learn the ropes from such world-class players rather than, because Kris made a point about this months ago about how loan moves for potentially generational or potentially world-class players can sometimes backfire because you actually limit their potential and their creativity, because it can get stifled if you're going to a team that's less developed. And Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, the way we play is like one of the best in the world, best coaching, best staffing, best facilities. Sending him somewhere else could stifle that. I know he did fantastically well at Fulham, but for me, maybe it's similar to the likes of Phil Foden, where everyone says you need to go out and play football, but actually what he needs to do is stick around with one of the best managers in the world, some of the best players in the world, and just suck in as much as he can there and humble himself a little bit.
It'd be nice to hear from Blackburn, and now they found him.
I think, something I wanted to say, with the whole Blackburn thing, I don't think sending him to Fulham would be a good idea. It's a big city. People know him there, and I think that's an issue that he's having in Liverpool at the moment. Blackburn was good in the middle of Burnley, he was going to Burnley at the end of the day. It's around there, and but with Phil Foden, Phil Foden's still in drama now. His mum's going around slapping people's heads in. So I do
the new
think
generation of footballers.
I unfortunately I think that it is, and he seems to be a bit of a ladies' man. He's got a new girlfriend every week. He likes to defend his girlfriends. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't mind his Greenwood shot too. He was speaking facts. So it's. I think a lot being made out of the whole social media thing. I do think he gets in a lot of stuff, but maybe it is just something that we are going to have to live with. Social media, they've grew up with social media. Social media has been a thing since probably from the age of 2000 and onwards. You're on social media from you're about 8, so that's all people know. At the end of the day, people are playing COD, having fights with everybody. So I do think it's something that we are going to have to live with eventually. But going on to the loan, I don't think sending him to London would be good. I think sending him to
Bournemouth, because he come through Fulham with Scott Parker. He's at Bournemouth now. That'd be an interesting one, would it? Because they look like they're going to come up.
Yeah, I know what I was thinking. Germany, a top club in Germany. It's a similar play style. Klopp probably knows a lot of coaches over there. You can probably find someone with a decent play style.
I do think that.
And then he's going to definitely get out the limelight. Yeah. He can't speak German, so he's not going to be beefing with anybody. He's just going to be indoors learning about football. So I think a move to Germany would be good. But I think we're going to see the Phil Foden treatment with him. Honestly, him just staying around. He's 18. We don't really have any. There's no time limit on this at the end of the day. If he's playing every 4 games, then that's good enough for his development. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm sure
there's a few comments here about Elliot and saying he checked his behaviour and stuff, and he's had the same girlfriend, and that he actually didn't. The girlfriend he was with for a while just put loads of screenshots on, which were very worrying, to be honest with you.
That was a while ago. So there was a new one a couple of weeks ago where apparently he cheated on his new girlfriend with an ex-girlfriend, but the new girlfriend then come out, and then that's when he commented on the Greenwood thing, because a Man United fan commented saying, "You're with a new girl every week," and he said, "Oh, at least I treat girls right, unlike a certain Man United player."
The German thing for Elliot, I think, is the best scenario, really. I think he's got heaps of potential, but like I said before, how many times have we seen players with potential just screw it up with their off-field behaviour, and that's genuinely the only worry with Elliot. And also, we don't know what he's going to come like. That injury, we haven't seen much of him this season. That injury is career-ending injury, to be honest with you. He completely snapped his leg. So what's he going to come back like? And it's just that off-field thing that worries me. And at that point about going to Germany, I think that would be perfect for someone like Harvey Elliott. Don't get me wrong, I think he is generational. I do believe he will be generational, but do believe the reason Liverpool fought for him, went to tribunals for him, is because he's going to be generational. But then you just hope that all this off-field stuff doesn't come back to haunt him, and that's the only thing with Elliot. He's always been like that. He was like that at Fulham. We knew what we were getting when we got him. But I think I've just seen a comment about someone need to take his social media off him and have someone controlling his accounts. That would probably help Harvey Elliott a lot. I mean, the stuff about Harry Kane, I thought was hysterical, and that's probably one thing I would agree with him on. But that's the only worry with Elliott, and I do think he's going to be fantastic. But I think he probably has had a word to him, to be honest, because he does seem to have been pulled out of that line like just a little bit. Although he's on the bench, he's not getting minutes. So maybe Klopp's in the process at the minute of maybe giving him a bit of a dressing down and stuff, and pulling him out the limelight and doing the Phil Foden treatment to him. But I do think that he's going to be fantastic. But that's the thing, he's still only 18. So the thing with our fan base, though, on football Twitter, I think if we loaned Harvey Elliott out, the fan base have a meltdown because everyone knows he's going to be that good.
Because we'd have James Milner as our fourth choice midfielder.
Yeah.
We'd have to see him a lot.
And everyone would have a meltdown where I think he's still only 18, 19. So if we do loan him, it's purely to develop him. And that's purely it. And like a lot of the fan base, I feel though, aren't helping because they're putting so much pressure on Elliott. So like you go on Twitter and everyone's like, "Where's Elliott? Why is Elliott not playing with Elliott? This, Elliott that?" And he's still a kid. Years ago, kids only used to get minutes here and there, and that's what he should be getting. And it's just the meltdown about him when he doesn't get games and stuff. It's mad because he's a kid. He still needs to learn. He still needs to grow. He's still a boy ultimately in a man's game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours, but we'll leave it at that. Everyone who joined the live stream, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe, turn the bell notification on. Helps us out a lot. We'll have daily content for the foreseeable future. Again, Louis, Matty, Damon, who's not here, but go and check out all the Twitters. Check out mine if you want to really tweet on it. But yeah, so appreciate everybody for joining.